A hospital in Idaho has announced that it will stop delivering babies, partly due to the current political climate. That's the argument here. Now, in a press release from the hospital, Bonner General health officials cited a shortage of pediatricians and decreasing number of deliveries. The release also pointed to the legal and political climate in a state where trigger laws banned nearly all abortions after the fall of the constitutional right to an abortion. So I'm gonna read an excerpt from their statement on why they're shutting down these services at the hospital. Highly respected, talented physicians are leaving. Recruiting replacements will be extraordinarily difficult. In addition, the Idaho legislature continues to introduce and pass bills that criminalize physicians for medical care nationally recognized as the standard of care. And so these anti-abortion laws really do have an effect on physicians' jobs, and they're terrified of being sued. They're terrified of being targeted for performing care that women need. And so many of them are no longer working in some of these red states. They're deciding to move to other states where they can practice without the fear of getting sued by private citizens. Now, they say they will try to perform deliveries of babies up until May 19th. The hospital has delivered 265 babies in 2022, which is actually a 37.5% decrease from 2008. I wanted to mention that because the lowering, like the decrease in birth rates is also part of this. So I don't wanna leave that part out as well. But that, in addition to the climate for physicians, has led to this issue.
Yeah, so a couple of things stood out to me here. One was a doctor telling us, reporters telling a story of doctors letting women get sicker and sicker with their pregnancies that they knew were not going to reach a healthy conclusion, but they were afraid if they acted earlier to help the mother, that Republicans would say, no, it wasn't clear enough yet, so you're going to jail, it's a felony, okay? And so you could, 5 years at a minimum, I mean, there's a lot of different laws here that apply, but that's one of them, okay? So they're letting the women get so badly in danger so that it's clear enough that they could operate.
Right.
That is a terrible, terrible thing to do, okay? Yep. So that's already, on that alone, that's insane, and we should not do that. So number two, doctors are rightfully saying, wait, I can go practice in a state where I'm not going to be in danger of being put in jail or being fined out of existence. I thought, by the way, Republicans wanted tort reform, but apparently not, okay? So, or I'm gonna lose everything I have because I actually did the right thing and I treated a person who needed the treatment. Well, I don't want to risk that. Well, I don't blame them. Who wants to live in a Taliban state? You make the right move and somebody characterizes it as wrong, and now next thing you know, the Taliban throws you in jail. So this is where we are. If you don't think it's Handmaid's Tale, you're kidding yourself. That's exactly what's happening in Idaho.
I mean, look, rural areas already have difficulty in getting the healthcare they need. So these anti-abortion laws happen to make the situation even worse. I can get into those numbers in just a moment. But first, let's actually talk about the anti-abortion laws in the state of Idaho. What do they look like? Well, a trigger law passed in 2020 criminalizes the procedure in almost all cases, with possible defenses if a doctor determines it necessary to save the life of a pregnant woman, or if the pregnant woman has reported rape or incest to law enforcement, which, by the way, that puts the woman in a terrible position because then she has to go through that awful process of our justice system. A medical provider who violates the law can face felony charges punishable by 2 to 5 years in prison, along with suspension or revocation of their medical license. So you can understand why it would be difficult to recruit doctors in states like Idaho. And the Idaho Republican Party, incredibly vicious on this issue. They don't even hide it. They want to go further. The Idaho Republican Party platform declares that abortion is murder from the moment of fertilization, and calls for its prevention regardless of the circumstances of conception, including persons conceived in rape and incest. The platform says the party supports criminalizing all abortions within the state. So that's where they're coming from, right? And it's not about saving lives. You look at the states that have these insanely strict bans on women's reproductive rights, and they tend to have incredibly high maternal mortality rates, incredibly high rates of childhood poverty. I mean, if you genuinely care about saving children's lives, wouldn't you focus on ensuring that they're living in safe, healthy environments, that they have all the resources they need to thrive? No, who cares about that, right? We'd much rather punish women for whatever reason. And then finally, access to obstetric services has been on the decline for years in rural areas, with at least 89 obstetrics units in rural US hospitals closing their doors between 2015 and 2019, according to the American Hospital Association. More than half of rural counties, home to 2.2 million women of childbearing age, are now maternity care deserts. It's insane.
Yeah, look, I'm sure that there are people who consider themselves quote unquote pro-life that really got convinced that life begins at conception when the zygotes are the same exact thing as fully grown independent human beings. I'm sure some of them genuinely believe that, okay? But the Republican leadership and the evangelical leadership are complete liars. And so Anna told me about this. I've got a small part of it in my book. For 5 years after Roe v. Wade, evangelical leaders and Republican politicians were 50-50 on it. They did not have an objection to it. But then Paul Weyrich ran a campaign where 4 Republicans won, running on the issue of abortion. And all of a sudden, the Republican Party and Christian leaders in the country were outraged at the idea of abortion. Remember, I've told you a million times, you can go look it up in numbers. The Bible's actually pro-abortion. That's why evangelical leaders were probably like, I don't know. I mean, the Bible says abortion's good if you think your wife cheated on you. But like, oh, we could win elections with it. Oh, perfect. Yep. And why did it work? For 2 reasons. One is, they're both super depressing. One is, some folks like the idea of the people that were in charge staying in charge. And who were in charge? Men. And they didn't like the equality of women. This is a way of controlling their bodies, from the same people who said, oh, liberals and progressives, they're gonna control our lives. No, they wanna control our lives, and they're doing projection. It doesn't get any more controlling your life than you're not allowed to do what you think is right for your family, with your own body, and the government should seize your body and tell you what to do with it. Okay, that is textbook controlling your life. And then but the main reason was they got to do the propaganda that works so brilliantly for them all the way up until now. The Democrats are killing children. Aren't you gonna stop the Democrats from murdering poor innocent babies? That's why they're doing it. It's a giant lie. They don't even believe it.
No, they don't. It's a way to accumulate political power. And what's incredible is, even after the 2022 midterm elections, where the reversal of Roe ended up being a political liability for the Republican Party, they're still running with it. They're still going with it. And so I mean, I don't know if it's going to change, if it's going to end up actually working out well for them in the future. But one thing that I do know is that ordinary people don't like government making decisions on their behalf when it comes to the most intimate parts of their lives, period. People actually do want freedom. And when we talk about big government, we want it when it comes to corporations that are so deregulated, so monopolized in some cases, that they screw us over. But that's the only area where the right wing actually wants small government. When it comes to our personal lives, when it comes to the most intimate parts of our lives, they love big government. They can't get enough of it.
By the way, Republicans, a lot of you don't even believe these restrictions, right? You don't want doctors to leave, you're pro-choice, etc. How do I know that? Because look at Kansas. they voted overwhelmingly
That's right.
for pro-choice. Montana voted overwhelmingly pro-choice. Almost every state in the nation is pro-choice, but yet your Republican politicians keep passing these draconian laws. So why don't you rise up and say, no, I like doctors. I don't want to imprison doctors. We won't have any, you morons, right? Doctors save our lives. They save my daughter's life, my uncle's life. What are you doing, you monsters? And yes, I like women, and I believe that they should be able to control their own bodies and should be equal to us. Rise up, otherwise they do represent you and you're okay with it. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.